Hi guys, welcome to you all. In this session, we will discuss about disaster management chapter 2 part 2, that is landslides and tsunami. This is presented by CISA Academy. So in this disaster management, we have 4 chapters. Right now we are dealing with chapter 2 part 2, that is landslides and tsunami. Let's get started. So this is the overview on landslide and tsunami. So these are the contents in landslides, that is what is landslide, terminology in landslide, causes of landslide, types of landslides, adverse effects, distribution pattern, possible risk reduction measures. Whereas in tsunami we have topics like what is tsunami, causes of tsunami, general characteristics, predictability, adverse effects, possible risk reduction measures. Let's start. So what is a landslide? The term landslide includes all variety of mass movements of hill slopes and can be defined as the downward and outward movement of slope forming materials such as rocks, soils, artificial fills, or combination of these by falling, sliding and flowing either slowly or quickly from one place to another place. Although the landslides are primarily associated with mountainous terrains, these can also occur in areas like where such activities like surface excavations for highways, buildings and open pit mine takes place. Prolonged rainfall causing landslide may block the flow of river for quite some time. The formation of river blocks can cause havoc to the settlements downstream on its bursting. So what is landslide hazard? It refers to potential of occurrence of a damaging landslide within a given area. Then what is landslide vulnerability? It means the extent of potential loss to given elements or set of elements with the area affected by the hazard. This is expressed on a scale which is range from 0 to 1. 0 means no loss, 1 means total loss. So then what is landslide risk? So landslide risk means the probability of harmful consequences, that expected number of life lost, person injured, damage to property and economical loss, ecological loss, etc. So what causes landslide? Like geologically weaker material, erosion. So what is erosion? Erosion means transportation of some material due to external agencies like air, water, wind, etc. Like soils, rocks are transported from one place to another due to influence of some external agents or weathering agents like wind, water, etc. Then next word is intense rainfall. Storms that produce intense rainfall for periods as short as several hours or have a more moderate intensity lasting several days have triggered abundant landslides, and heavy melting of snow in the hilly terrains also result in the landslide. Next one is earthquakes. Due to shaking of earth, rocks or soils or both may slide. The next one is volcanic eruption. like deposition of loose volcanic ash on hillsides commonly is followed by accelerated erosion and frequent mud or debris flow triggered by intense rainfall. So these are the types of landslides. The first one is rockfall. So what is rockfall? It means abrupt movement of materials that became detached from steep slopes, moving by free fall, bouncing and rolling. So this is called rockfall. The second one is topple. A block of rock that tilts. The block of rock that tilts forward and falls, bounces or rolls down the slope, then it is called topple. The next one is debris flow. Rapid mass movement of loose soils or rocks and organic matter in slurry form flows down, then it is called debris flow. Then what is debris avalanche? It means very rapid or extremely rapid debris flow. So it means it is a variety case of debris flow. So the next one is earth flow. Flowing mass of wet material that contains sand, silt, clay. So what is sand, silt, clay? So sand is this much size of particle, silt is less than sand particle size, and clay is less than silt. So these are the particle sizes of sand, silt and clay. So flowing mass of wet material that contains at least 50% of sand, silt and clay sized particles, then it is called earth flow. Then what is creep? Creep is a slow and steady downslope movement of soil or rocks, often indicated by curved tree trunks, bent fences, retaining walls, tilted poles, etc. Then what is lateral spread? So lateral spread means horizontal movement of materials, earth materials. Then what is block slide? Block slide means an entire block slides. Material slides like one entire piece or block, then it is called block slide. So what is the adverse effects? The most common elements at risk are the settlements built on the steep slopes, built at the toe. So if we consider that this is the slope, then elements like settlements on slope, like there is a tree and at the toe there is a building. So these two are very risk elements. All those buildings constructed without appropriate foundation for a given soil and in slopy areas are also at risk. Like buildings like inappropriate foundation also at risk. Roads, communication lines are vulnerable. Next one, distributional pattern in India. The Himalayas, including northeastern mountains, being the worst affected, followed by a section of Western Ghats and the Vindhyas. One of the worst tragedies took place at Malpa. Uttarakhand on 11th and 17th August 1998 when nearly 380 people were killed when massive landslides washed away the entire village. So these are the some of the major landslides in the last one decade. In October 1919, Nilgiris, nearly 36 people killed and several injured, several buildings and communication network damaged. July 1991, Assam, 300 people killed. November 1992, Nilgiris, road network and buildings damaged, 5 million damage estimate. July 1993, Itangar, 25 people buried alive, 2 km road damage. August 1993, Kohima, Nagaland, 200 houses destroyed, 500 people died, about 5 km road stretch was damaged. In 18th August 1998, Malpa, Kali River, 205 people killed, road network to Manasarovar disrupted. August 2003, Uttarakasi, heavy loss of infrastructure. So how can we reduce the risk? By hazard mapping to avoid building settlements in such areas, and any development activity initiated in the area should be taken up only after a detailed study of the region has been carried out. Land use practices. Areas covered by degrading natural vegetation in upper slopes are to be afforested with suitable species. Existing patches of natural vegetation in good condition should be preserved. Increasing vegetation cover, constructing retaining walls, and doing insurance, engineered structures, and surface drainage control works. So what is tsunami? Tsunami is the word which is from Japanese term. Tusu means harbor, and nami means wave. So harbor wave. Tsunami means harbor wave. Tsunami are popularly called tidal waves, but they actually have nothing to do with the tides. The geological moments that cause tsunami are produced in three major ways. They are, the first one is earthquake, the second one is landslides, and the last one is volcanic activity. So, tsunami caused by earthquake. Common of these are fault movements on the sea floor accompanied by an earthquake, the release of huge amount of energy and have the capacity to cross oceans. The degree of moment depends on how fast the earthquake occurs and how much water is displaced. The best example of tsunami due to earthquake is 2014 Indian Ocean earthquake occurred on 26th December with a magnitude of 9.1 and a maximum Mercalli intensity of 9, which is violent, caused when the Indian plate was subducted by Eurasian plate with a waves up to 30 meters high and killed nearly 280,000 people. The second most common cause of the tsunami is a landslide, either occurring underwater or originating above the sea and then plunging into the water. The largest tsunami ever produced by a landslide was in Lituya Bay, Alaska, 1958. The massive rock slide produced a wave that reached a high water mark of 50 to 150 meters above the shoreline. The third major cause of tsunami is volcanic activity. The flank of a volcano located near the shore or underwater may be uplifted or depressed, similar to the action of a fault, or the volcano may actually explode. In 1883, the violent explosion of the volcano Krakatoa in Indonesia produced tsunami measuring 40 meters, which crashed upon Java and Sumatra. General characteristics. Tsunami differs from ordinary ocean waves, which are produced by wind blowing over water. The tsunami travels much faster than ordinary waves. Compared to normal wave speed of 100 km per hour, tsunami in the deep water of the ocean may travel the speed of a jet aeroplane, that is 800 km per hour, and yet in spite of their speed, tsunami increases the water height only 30 to 45 centimeters, often passes unnoticed by ships at sea. Contrary to the popular belief, the tsunami is not a single giant wave. It is possible for a tsunami to consist of 10 or more waves, which is then termed as tsunami wave train. So tsunami is not a single wave, it is a combination of waves. The waves follow each other, so they follows five to 90 minutes apart. Tsunami normally causes flooding as a huge wall of water enters the mainland. Predictability. There are two distinct types of tsunami warnings. There are international tsunami warning systems and regional warning systems. Tsunami have occurred in all the oceans and the Mediterranean Sea, but the great majority of them have occurred in the Pacific Ocean. Since scientists cannot exactly predict earthquakes, they also cannot exactly predict when a tsunami will be generated. So, International Tsunami Warning System. Shortly after the Hilo tsunami 1946, the Pacific Tsunami Warning System (PTWS) was developed with its operational center at the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center (PTWC) near Honolulu, Hawaii. The PTWC is able to alert countries several hours before the tsunami strikes. The warning includes predicted arrival time at selected coastal communities where the tsunami could travel in few hours. A tsunami watch is issued with subsequent arrival time to other geographic areas. The next one is regional warning systems. They use seismic data about nearby earthquakes to determine if there is a possible local threat of a tsunami. Such systems are capable enough to provide warnings in less than 15 minutes. In India, Survey of India maintains a tidal gauge network along the coastline of India. The gauges are located in major ports. The day-to-day maintenance of gauge is carried with the assistance from authorities of the ports. Apart from the tide gauge, tsunami can be detected with the help of radars. So, typical adverse effects. Local tsunami events are those less than 30 minutes from the source cause majority damage. Flooding effect of the tsunami that cause major destruction to human settlements, roads and infrastructure, thereby disrupting the normal functioning of the society. Availability of drinking water has always been a major problem in areas affected by a disaster or tsunami. Sewage pipes may be damaged, causing major sewage disposal problems. Open wells and other groundwater may be contaminated by salt water and debris and sewage. So these are the major tsunamis in India. 31st December 1881, an earthquake of 7.9 in the Richter scale in Car Nicobar Island. Entire east coast of India and Andaman and Nicobar Islands 1 meter tsunami were recorded at Chennai. 26th August 1883, explosion of Krakatoa volcano in Indonesia. East coast of India was affected. 2 meter tsunami were recorded at Chennai. In 1941, 26 June, an 8.1 Richter scale earthquake in the Andaman east coast of India was affected, but no estimate of height of the tsunami is available. In 26th December 2004, Bandak, Indonesia, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Sri Lanka, India, Nicobar Islands, Thailand, Malaysia, Kenya, Tanzania. The east coast of India was affected. The waves measured around 10 meters high, killing more than 10,000 precious lives. So, possible risk reduction measures. Even though India has not faced frequent tsunamis, but there is a need to identify the areas that are generally affected by tsunamis. The whole of the Indian coastal belt is prone to tsunamis. While it is of course not possible to prevent a tsunami in certain tsunami prone countries, some measures have been taken to reduce the damage caused on shore. The first one is site planning and land management. Site planning determines the location, configuration and density of development on particular site and therefore an important tool in reducing tsunami risk. The designation and zoning of tsunami hazard areas for such open space uses as agriculture parks and recreation or natural hazard areas is recommended as the first land use planning strategy. This strategy is designed to keep development at a minimum in hazard areas. In areas where it is not feasible to restrict land to open space uses, other land use planning measures can be used, like avoiding high value and high occupancy uses to the greatest degree possible. The next one is engineering structures. Most of the habituation of the fishing community is seen in the coastal areas. The houses constructed by them are mainly of lightweight materials without any engineering inputs. Therefore, there is an urgent need to educate the community about the good construction practice that they should adopt, such as avoid buildings or living in buildings within a several hundred feet of the coastline, as these areas are most likely to experience damage from tsunamis. Construct the structure on a higher ground level with respect to mean sea level. Construction of water breakers to reduce the velocity of waves. Use of water and corrosion resistant materials for construction. Construction of community halls at higher locations so that they can serve as shelters at the time of disaster. The next one is flood management. Flooding will result from a tsunami. Tsunami waves will flood the coastal areas. Flood mitigation measures could be incorporated. Thank you guys for watching this video. Please comment if you have any suggestions. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, and for more videos, please don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.